Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of Yolanda Marodi. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Yolanda Marodi was born on December 5, 1971, and lived in California. At some point, she married a man named James Joseph Olejniczak. The couple raised 2 children together. In the summer of 2000, Yolanda filed for divorce. She and James agreed to mutual restraining orders and to share custody of the children. In October 2000, the body of 26-year-old James was discovered by his roommate. James had been stabbed to death and was in the hallway of his apartment in Fontana, California. The police immediately suspected Yolanda was responsible, and they went to interview her. The problem was they couldn't find her. She had pulled her 2 children out of school, packed up their belongings, and disappeared. Later, Yolanda turned herself in to the police. In 2003, she pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter. In 2004, she received a sentence of over 13 years in prison. Yolanda was released on parole in 2013 and discharged from parole in 2015. With her freedom restored, she went looking for love. Yolanda became romantically involved with a firefighter named Rebecca Marodi. Rebecca had been born in 1975 and started working in 1993 as a volunteer firefighter. She went on to become a seasonal firefighter and was hired as a fire apparatus engineer in 2007. In 2022, she obtained the rank of captain. Yolanda and Rebecca married in late 2022 or early 2023. They lived in a 4-bedroom, 1,600 square foot house on Rancho Villa Road in Ramona, California. Rebecca's mother, Lorena, lived in the same house. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On Monday, February 17, 2025, at 8:58 p.m., Rebecca Marodi's mother, Lorena, called 911 and said that her daughter had been stabbed at their home on Rancho Villa Road. When the police arrived, they found that 49-year-old Rebecca had sustained multiple stab wounds to her neck, chest, and abdomen. Life-saving measures were deployed, but were not successful. At 10:14 p.m., Rebecca was pronounced dead at the scene. Here's what the police found during the course of their investigation. According to Lorena, 1 week earlier, her daughter Rebecca had told Yolanda that she was ending their marriage. Yolanda spent a lot of time at the house, but now she was missing. Lorena indicated that there was video surveillance at the home and supplied the video to investigators. The next day, the police examined the video and realized that a camera covering the patio had captured a disturbing scene. On Monday, February 17, at 8:08 p.m., 50 minutes before Lorena called 911, a woman who looked like Rebecca was seen running across the patio. A woman in a yellow shirt, believed to be Yolanda, was chasing after her. For the purpose of telling this story succinctly, I'm going to just assume these 2 people were in fact Rebecca and Yolanda. Rebecca could be heard yelling, "Yolanda, please, I don't want to die." On the patio, Rebecca came back into view with blood on her back. Apparently responding to Rebecca's statement, Yolanda said, "You should have thought about that before." Yolanda stood in front of Rebecca with a knife in her right hand and ordered Rebecca to go inside the house. Rebecca repeatedly directed Yolanda to call 911. At around 8:09 p.m., Rebecca and Yolanda entered the home together. They were not captured on the patio camera after this. At 8:20 p.m., Yolanda could be seen on the front door camera. She was wearing different clothing than she had been wearing just a few minutes earlier. Yolanda gathered pets and various items including luggage and loaded them into her silver 2013 Chevrolet Equinox SUV. At 8:22 p.m., she drove away from the house. At 9:16 p.m., the Chevrolet Equinox was logged as crossing into Mexico. 3 days after Rebecca's death, a female acquaintance of Yolanda contacted investigators. She indicated that Yolanda sent her a text message which read, quote, "Becky came home and told me she was leaving me. She met someone else. All messages were lies. We had a big fight, and I hurt her. I'm sorry," unquote. At the time I'm making this video, Yolanda is still on the run, probably in Mexico. She is traveling with 2 small dogs. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. Did Yolanda murder her wife Rebecca? At this point, Yolanda enjoys the presumption of innocence, but if she stands trial, I don't think it will go too well for her. Based on the available evidence, it sure seems like Yolanda stabbed Rebecca to death. For example, the person who looked like Rebecca in the patio video used Yolanda's name when referring to her attacker. Again, she said, "Yolanda, please, I don't want to die." This would be a pretty strange thing to do if she was not referring to Yolanda. Maybe there was another Yolanda who just happened to be in the area carrying a knife. The person who looked like Yolanda fled in Yolanda's vehicle and crossed into Mexico. It stands to reason that Yolanda was trying to escape responsibility. Yolanda sent a text message to an acquaintance and admitted to hurting Rebecca. And 25 years before Rebecca's murder, Yolanda stabbed her spouse to death and fled, although ultimately she surrendered. This brings me to item number 2. It is reasonable to believe that Rebecca was aware of Yolanda's criminal history. A person may be able to conceal a short prison stay on their resume, but Yolanda served 13 years in prison. That's a large gap in her life to explain. Why did Rebecca think that marrying Yolanda was a good idea? I imagine that Yolanda tried to put her best foot forward. She probably didn't tell Rebecca that she'd learned nothing in prison and was hoping to add another victim to her murder list. Instead, Yolanda probably presented herself as completely reformed. She promised that she would never murder a spouse again. She was a changed woman. Her magical prison journey taught her a valuable lesson about getting along in society and with romantic partners. Even with this representation, Rebecca should have been skeptical about Yolanda, mostly because of the stabbing part. Yolanda had killed a romantic partner. Rebecca was now Yolanda's romantic partner. It's easy to see why Rebecca should not have felt comfortable in that relationship. Furthermore, Yolanda killed her spouse right after they separated. One would think this would make Rebecca extremely careful about how she broke up with Yolanda. Even if she was not afraid all the time, Rebecca should have been afraid when separating. Again, Rebecca's mother said that a week before the killing, Rebecca told Yolanda the marriage was over. So Rebecca informed Yolanda about the separation and continued to live in the same house. It's clear that Rebecca must have felt confident that Yolanda was not dangerous. Either that or she'd like to live on the edge. Item number 3, what do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Yolanda Marodi was self-centered, impulsive, and homicidal. She reacted strongly when confronted with the breakdown of a romantic relationship. Even though she spent 13 years in prison for stabbing her spouse, she did not adequately address her negative characteristics. Yolanda did not learn how to control her impulses or didn't care. Yolanda married Rebecca while representing herself as a non-violent and reformed individual. Rebecca was highly attracted to Yolanda and therefore disregarded all the warning signs. She moved forward with the relationship despite it being a terrible idea. By February 2025, Rebecca had a change of heart. She now realized that marrying Yolanda was a disastrously bad move, but she still did not appreciate the danger component. Rebecca continued to live in the same house with Yolanda even after announcing her intention to separate. Furthermore, according to Yolanda's text message, Rebecca indicated that she had another lover. This further antagonized Yolanda. So it wasn't just a rejection, it was being rejected for someone else. On February 17, 2025, Yolanda retrieved a knife and attacked Rebecca. This may have started in the house and moved to the patio. It's not clear exactly what happened. In her last moments, Rebecca begged for her life. She tried to appeal to whatever decency may have been left in Yolanda. Unfortunately, Yolanda was fresh out of that product. With a knife in her hand, Yolanda forced Rebecca to go back into the house. Rebecca was in a bad situation by this point. If she had refused, Yolanda probably would have killed her right there on the patio. There was no way for Rebecca to win. If she stayed outside, she would be killed. If she went inside the house, she would be killed. So she decided to go in the house, perhaps hoping that she could reason with Yolanda. Maybe that would calm Yolanda down, like cooperating with Yolanda would be a good move. It's also possible that Rebecca did not fully understand that Yolanda still had a homicidal intent. This wasn't just an attack designed to non-fatally injure. This was a murder, and Rebecca was the victim. In the house, Yolanda continued the attack and murdered Rebecca. Yolanda had a lot of time to contemplate the nature and consequences of her first fatal stabbing in 2000, yet she chose to kill her second spouse. Getting revenge against a romantic partner who was rejecting her was more important than anything else. It was more important than her freedom. Having spent 13 years in prison, Yolanda knew that it was an unpleasant place, and she had no interest in delivering an encore performance. After grabbing her dogs and some of her property, Yolanda left for Mexico. Unless she has access to a lot of money, it is very unlikely that she will escape justice there. Maybe Mexico was not Yolanda's final destination, but either way, she is probably going to be arrested soon. It's possible that Yolanda has no intention of remaining alive if confronted by the authorities, like her plan is just to stay on the run as long as she can, but going back to prison is not something she will tolerate. Given her erratic nature, there is no way to know what she is thinking. Now moving to my final thoughts. Many people want to be in a stable romantic relationship. It is a common mission, a typical goal. Unfortunately, those seeking love often struggle to find a suitable partner. Therefore, they lower their standards. There are many different standards which can be lowered. Some may not matter that much, but others can have devastating consequences. For example, some people may entertain the idea of starting a romance with a killer. On the positive side, it makes finding a partner exceptionally easy. If they start searching for potential partners who are still in prison, they literally have a captive audience. On the negative side, there is the murder part. I can appreciate how some people have a lot of faith in the criminal justice system. They believe that if a person spends a long time in prison, they will come out a different person. Specifically, a better person, a safer person, certainly not a more dangerous person. In reality, prison sometimes does not improve a person's behavior, it can actually make it worse. There's nothing wrong with believing that convicted killers can be reformed. The question becomes, what is a person willing to risk? It's one thing to say, let's spend public money on programs to help convicted killers find housing or to develop job skills. It's something entirely different to live with a killer as a lover or as a spouse. A person who does this is clearly willing to bet everything on love, believing that it will somehow wipe away homicidal tendencies. Unfortunately, gambling on love, at least under these circumstances, is often a losing bet. Those are my thoughts on the case of Yolanda Marodi. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.